So my best friend and I were inseparable. So much so that our mothers decided that we needed to go to kindergarten together. This was this was probably not in the best interest for the kindergarten teacher. So one day when she turned her back, we planned our escape, climbed the wall and went out the window. I'm sure that was a story that she probably continues to tell. And so we were just inseparable in everything we did. I don't remember a day in my young life without her in it. We lived, like, if I went out my back door, our neighbors behind us had three lots. Their house was in the middle lot, so it was empty behind my house. Their house was the middle, and then this empty lot that I would go across, to get to her house. And I didn't use the front door if I wanted to know if she was home. I would either go around to the back door and knock on it, or I'd go straight to the bedroom window and do a slight tap there. Or chances are she'd see me coming and go to the back door. If she came to my house, she would go knock on the rumpus room door, or she'd come around to my bedroom window. If we found out the other person was grounded, it was an immediate to the bedroom window door to find out, the details. Why are you grounded? How long are you grounded for? What's going on? Because we couldn't fathom being separated for any length of time. Vacations were excruciating. What do you mean you got to go visit your mom's family in South Carolina? I can't stand the thought of you being gone. And so it was just the way it was. There wasn't a day that we didn't see each other. And our interests lined up well together. Sleepovers were frequent. I'm not saying every Friday night I was at her house, but at least once a month I was sleeping over at her house and or she was over at mine. Her mother would plan foods for us to eat, and when she slept over at my house, we slept out in the rumpus room with the dog. It was, her dad was the town vet, so it was actually very comical because the dog went everywhere I did. The dog was definitely mine. I don't remember being any part of bringing her home. I do believe she was probably about adopted to our family when I was 6 months old, and she just became mine. And I think she chose me, actually, out of all the family. And so she would follow me wherever I went to play. So she was with my friend and I a lot. But boy, as soon as my friend's dad came home from work, she'd put her tail between her legs and she'd head for home. And he would just laugh and laugh and laugh. So it was just when we were at my house, we could be you could find us in the sandbox, just rolling trucks around. On a rainy day, you might find us with my brother's Army men in the Barbie camper, pushing those around from, battle to battle, wherever we set the battle up in the rumpus room. Or we might haul them out to the sandbox. And, you'd find us out there with the garden hose, setting up rivers to take them around in, who knows, the back of pickups or whatever. But I can assure you, you never found us playing with the dolls. And recently, we had to clean out my parents' house, and we had split photos up, or mom had sent home a packet of photos that I just really never paid attention to, and I opened them up, and I found one Christmas where I had been given a Barbie doll, and I was happy about it. And I was like, boy, I certainly do not remember this. I was probably about 8 years old, and it cracked me up. Because even though I had this Barbie camper, my memories of the Barbie camper are the Army men in it, not Barbie dolls. And so I think this was the great thing about my friend, is the way our interests lined up. We never played house. We didn't play school. we never played anything that would be considered a stereotypical girl thing. But yet, at the same time, you didn't find us tearing apart engines, chasing creepy crawly things, or anything that you would consider a stereotypical boy thing. So we just were two peas in a pod having a good old time. No one ever yelled at us, "You can't do that," because that's not what girls do. By the time we got older, we both wanted to play football for the junior high team, and they wouldn't let us, and we were quite distraught over it. But that's the one time I do remember them saying that girls can't do that. In our small town, the time that it was, and quite frankly, they needed players for the team, so that left us more scratching our heads than anything. Was, you need players. She's fast. I'm stronger than most of the junior high boys we went to school with. So it's like, why can't we play? But we just accepted it and moved on. One of our favorite wintertime activities was to igloo out the swing set. So what this means is we had enough snow. And when we'd get a major snowstorm, Dad would bring home the tractor. And the whole entire street was mostly elderly people. And so he would take the snow and he would pour it over the swing set. Now, not the entire street, but we were fortunate enough that the neighbor's driveway was right next to our driveway. And so he would just take it to the backyard, put it over the swing set, and then us little kids would begin to make a tunnel. And then after we got the tunnel, we would begin to dig out around the swings. And now you couldn't stand up in there, but we didn't have to sit on the cold ground either. We could dig out around the swings. And this became my favorite place to be. It was quiet in there. It was, the wind was blocked. And since it was in my backyard, I could go in there whenever I wanted to. Now, we did never, ever make the tunnel big enough for the big kids to get in there. Not that they ever wanted to, but we just made sure they couldn't go in. We did make forts around the white picket fence in the front. I would take my younger brother out there, to make snowballs so that we could attack Dad when he came home from work. We had plenty of snow to go around to do other things too, but this igloo was my favorite place to go. And eventually I found that this was a great place for my mind to escape to. And she had an even-keeled personality. I was hot-headed. I had a little bit of athletic talent in some areas, but not overwhelmingly so. I had learned to be funny, but I was not even-keeled personality-wise. So I had started to isolate, and I had found ways to be alone, and I was okay with it. I can still remember being out in the rumpus room at a time that I normally would have been at the pool, my favorite place to be in the middle of summer on what was considered a hot summer day. And I was just watching TV and my mom opening the door, staring at me as I was laying on the couch out there watching TV in the middle of the afternoon, like in shock that I was alone in the rumpus room by myself. And no one approached me. No one even knew what to do for me. And at that point, when I should have been approached and cared for and sought out after, like, are you okay? Nobody was even asking those questions. So I was, again, learning how to deal with the hand that was dealt me, to put the mask on, to say, I'm okay when I wasn't okay. And so to hide behind the humor And and even my best friend's mom taught me that she knew about my hot-headed and that I would just have to go blow off steam, and then I would come back as soon as I blew off the steam, and that she knew that, she embraced that, and she taught me, maybe rightly so or wrongly so, but she pointed out in me that she saw that and she was okay with it. And then the blow came where we were sat down to this big fancy dinner where they said, your dad's been promoted, and with this promotion, we have to leave our small town. So with that, my security was blown up. Everything I had known to be was thrown out the window. And I picked up from the table and I ran out the door over to my best friend's house, wanting to be consoled, wanting my best friend to cry with me that I was leaving town, that we were losing each other. And what I was met with instead was my best friend walking out the back door saying, yeah, I heard you're moving. In her even-keeled way, she'd already been given the news. What I found out later in life was my mom's not the one that told them. And so somehow or another, because of the small town, the news of my dad's promotion had gotten out and had gotten to my best friend in a different way. So whether she was ever heartbroken or ever upset that I was leaving, I'll never know. But what I knew was my security was gone. What I was in control of was gone. My favorite area, the pool, was gone. My friendships that I'd known, gone. And so we had to pack up our things and move to a strange place. So I lived in a town of 1,100, and now all of a sudden I was going to live in a town of 20,000. I went to school with a class of 80, and now all of a sudden I'm in a class of 200. And everything I thought I knew, I no longer knew. And so I am now 14 years old. I don't have WebMD. I don't have the internet. I don't have a best friend anymore. I don't have anybody asking me, are you okay? And I am now going into my freshman year of high school, a time when a young person questions most everything anyway. At least back in those days, you're probably questioning them early now. And it's a very confusing time anyway. And so I walk into this new school and I have no support, no nothing. And it is the first time in my life that I really realize I'm not comfortable being a woman. I'm not comfortable with who I am. And what does that mean? And what do you do with that? And how do you handle that? I don't have anybody to talk to, and I don't know what to do with this. So my parents are finding me babysitting jobs because there's no other way to make an income. And for some reason or other, we push our teenagers into making an income, and rightly so. And at that age that I was, they wanted me to babysit infants. And I immediately knew I was not meant to babysit infants. There was nothing in me that was maternal. And I felt very overwhelmed. I don't think I'd ever been around infants. And it was extremely confusing. It was extremely difficult. I was grateful when I got babysitting jobs where the kids were close to my younger brother's age and I could take him along kind of as a buffer. and he could play with them, or my babysitting job started when the kids went to bed. And it just was very confusing. It was a very confusing time. But as far as the school went and the transfer into this school, it all went well. I met friends, made friends right away. All of that went extremely well. But unfortunately, after we were there a year, my dad found out that we had to change towns again. And so the crazy thing that happened with all of this insanity was we were going to have to move again. And so this got out, and like everybody's like, oh, hey, Miller's moving again in a year. And so nobody really wants to put time into a friendship when they know you're leaving again. And maybe I didn't want to put time into knowing that it was going to be heart-wrenching to say goodbye in another year. It was, Dad was gone. He left. He went ahead to where we were going to move in a year. It was a difficult season, and I was angry. I was angry at everything. I already had anger in me, and I just couldn't believe I was going to be uprooted again. So now I'm leaving this town of 20,000, and I'll be honest, I liked where we were. I liked the city. I liked the school. I liked the friends I'd made. I liked everything about it. If I had to leave my small town, I liked where we landed. It was hard. It was hard. It was hard to pick up and leave again. And as soon as school was over, we were gone. Well, why wouldn't we go meet my dad? Get settled with him at the house that he was already living in, that, to make our family unit whole again. So once again, I spent another summer without friends, and it was difficult. So now we've moved to a class of 550. But not only that, I've gone from a farming community to a city. And not just a city, but a very wealthy part of the city. And it was where the girls dressed, I always laugh. It was Valley, and the girls bleached their hair blonde and, wore makeup to the hilt. And, I was out of a farming community where I didn't care about any of those things, nor was taught any of those things, nor anything. And so I didn't fit in. And it was very clear I didn't fit in. And they made a point of telling me I didn't fit in. And it was brutal being at the school every day. It was harsh. It was harsh to get up and go there day after day after day. And when you look at my grades, not that I was ever going to be a rocket scientist, but the fact is I had good grades before I started at the school, and they slowly began to plummet because I could not focus on anything the teacher was saying. All I could think about was the threats I heard in the hallways, and it was very difficult. It was a very difficult time, but it was also at this time that I understood, or the thoughts came into my mind that I was definitely born in the wrong body, that I was meant to be a boy, not a girl. So now the question comes in, was this nature or nurture? And I hate this question. I truly do hate this question, because as we've sat and talked about, my best friend, we were two peas in a pod. And everything we did together, and nobody ever said girls can't do that, boys can't do that. Stereotypically, we didn't do anything that was girls. We stereotypically didn't do anything that was boys. I was raised in a time where girls had to wear dresses to school. I hated wearing a dress to school. Now, by the time I'm in high school, this is not the way it had to be. I could wear what I wanted, but it was still painfully obvious I didn't know what I should be wearing, and my mother had a great deal of input over what I was wearing, and it still wasn't up to the satisfaction of my classmates. So they had a great deal of sarcasm about what I was wearing. I could have worn a sackcloth and gotten the same comments probably as if I had been dressed in what was what was proper at that time. What was in vogue and whatever. It just wasn't. I needed to have bleach blonde hair. Be 100 pounds and have makeup onto the hilt, and that just was not who I was. And so that just wasn't my upbringing. That just wasn't the way I was going to be. And so was it nature or was it nurture? Because that's not the way my mother raised me. I don't believe that can ever be the proper answer to why I felt like I was born in the wrong body, because my mother didn't teach me how to put makeup on or put me in clothing that was appropriate for the times. That's stupid to think those things. Plus, it puts, why are we putting the onus on my parents? To say that God made a mistake when he created me female is equally stupid. We could sit here and debate this all day, and we being you don't have a chance to debate it with me. It's just a dumb debate when, what I want to look at as time goes on is looking at what was the underlying issues that made me feel that way. And that's what I'm saying. I had to blow up the fortress. And so I want to talk more about that later, about the frozen fortress that I had found a way to isolate in my mind, to pull back. And so what I want to talk a little bit about, is the bullying that I was subjected to that made me pull back, that I couldn't embrace, the learning so that I could go on and be successful in a career. I couldn't go to college because I knew that I couldn't handle living in a dorm. Plus, my grades were failing. So to be accepted into a college wasn't, it was going to be academically difficult. Not impossible, but difficult. The counselor that was advising me at the time was telling my mother that it was impossible. And so that was kind of, the battle that I had at home. I knew what I was facing each day at school, but I was not being heard at home. So when I went to my parents after my junior year and said, I have an opportunity to go back to my hometown to live with my best friend and her mom's family, their family, and finish up my senior year there, my parents would not hear me out, would not hear it, would not even entertain the idea. Would I have been successful if that had been a reality? Would that have worked? That's something I don't know. I don't know if this had been a good idea or not. I'm not saying my best friend is successful right now. I'm not saying that would have been an environment that had worked well for me. Small towns at that time, were different. Over those, 4 years that I'd been gone, my friends changed too. So hindsight, going back and making those changes, I don't know. I don't know if that'd been the best thing for me. So to point my fingers at my parents and say, you made bad choices. No, I can't say that. I won't say that. I love my parents. they did the best they could at the time. And so it it's crazy to say they're the reason I ended up making the decision to begin transitioning to male. I won't make the I won't blame them. I won't blame them for the way they raised me. I won't blame them for the things that happened. I made my own choices. I was an adult when I made my choices. You know, it it just we just can't play the blame game. The whole thing is I look at life as a journey, and it's a you're walking down a path, you have several choices to make, and I made a misstep. I made a misstep on my journey in life, and when I stopped and evaluated, I had to take some steps back and alter the path that I was on. And so I don't ever see it as a mistake. And that's the way I think when somebody decides to detransition, the way you have to see it as I made a misstep on my journey in life. And now I just need to step back and maybe make a different decision in my life. And that's quite honestly what my ministry is all about. MJM Ministry is to help people take a step back and reevaluate.